Good morning, this is Waterfowling, Nebraska. I'm Mark Vrtiska with the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission, and this morning we're going to talk a little bit about decoy spreads. The first thing that hunters need to be aware of when they're setting up their decoy spread is where the wind direction is coming from in relation to where they're going to set up to hunt. Wind direction is the key. Most times, most definitely, you want the wind at your back. Ducks and geese will try to land into the wind, and your best shots will come as the birds are coming straight at you and trying to land into your decoys. Obviously, not every time you go out you can have the wind at your back. And sometimes you have to end up with a crosswind or wind that's coming across the front of the blind or where you're set up at. First decoy spread, again, when you don't have the wind at your back and you have a crosswind that comes across the front of the blind or where you're set up at, which a lot of times is a typical situation that you have, what I like to use is the J hook or a big C. And basically what you have is you put the bulk of your decoys kind of at the head of the C or the bottom of the J and run a string of decoys out, running from that out to the water. And I also like to put 3 or 4, maybe half dozen decoys kind of closer to the blind. And again, the objective is to funnel those birds right into that pocket right behind the big bulk of the decoys right in front of the blind. Also, if you look at the decoy spread that we have out, I have multiple species. What I like to try to do in my decoy spread is have some color out there. I like to have black and white decoys. I like to have pintails that have a lot of white. So it's just not a complete mallard spread. It's good to have multiple species in your decoy spread. We got some coot decoys in the spread as well, and those aren't for the coots or for the ducks. I think on some cloudy days like we kind of have today where the sun's not out and shiny, or even if it is, having some dark decoys out there I think adds some realism to your spread and shows up a little bit better to ducks passing by. The other decoy spread that we're looking at today, and it's one that I really like to use when the wind's right at your back, is kind of either a U or a V, or basically 2 lines of decoys going straight out from the blind or where you're set up to hunt. And basically, again, what you're trying to do is funnel those ducks right into the hole where you can get good, close, clean shots. You are trying to make those birds land like a plane right on that runway, right to you. Another little tip that I think is really helpful and something that's kind of a hard lesson to learn, it was for me, is that do not be scared and do not be hesitant to move decoys around or move to a completely different location. Watch the birds. The birds will tell you what you need to do in terms of your decoy spread. If they're not landing in the decoys, move the decoys out, move them closer, change them, put more out, do what you have to do. I think that is what really separates good duck hunters from others. If there's one thing that I see that I consider a quote a no-no in terms of decoy spreads, and I've seen it often, is hunters will set out a big huge blob of decoys right in front of their blind or where they're set up to hunt. I don't like that. I like, again, creating a pocket, that quote runway where those birds can come in. So don't create a blob. Anyway, this is Mark Vrtiska for Waterfowling, Nebraska. Have a good day.